Hello everybody, welcome. This is Raw Space, and welcome to SpaceWeek Live for April 26th, 2020. So, if this episode is a little disjointed, I apologize. I was trying to get some stuff set up with my streaming environment, and I didn't maybe fully properly prepare for all of the content, but let's try to get through it and see what happens. We don't have many viewers, so I'm not disappointing very many people right now, which is excellent. All right. So, had a couple big events this week. If I look back at my schedule, on Wednesday, let me pull up that video. I really don't want to just talk to the camera or down at my hands. I want to show you what I'm talking about here. Preparation is key. So on Wednesday, SpaceX finally launched another Starlink batch of satellites. This was Starlink 6, the 7th batch of satellites. And
one of the great challenges in this world.
It went off without a hitch. Wow. Next time, I really have to get my browser tabs up beforehand, because now I'm like having to view ads and... Okay, where is the launch of this sucker? It's a drone ship. Da-da-da. There we go. Let's put it at negative 25 seconds. Audio.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Falcon 9 switching down range.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Fast forward.
Stage 1, landing leg deploy.
Stage 2 FTS is safe.
There it is. Let's see. We have cheers. We have a rocket. Awesome. This is the 4th landing for this booster. And as you can hear, everybody here is super stoked to see it there. It's great. Gorgeous day. Gorgeous rocket. All right. And we have second engine. The next. Oh, there they go.
And the satellite deployment.
All right. That's those 60 Starlink satellites. Look at that cool glow around them. Wow. Now, shortly after, as I was saying, after just coming up in the next, few hours or so, we're going to see the solar arrays deploy. And over the next days and weeks, the satellites will begin to distance themselves away from one another and use their onboard ion thrusters to make
then 2 days later, a Soyuz rocket launched the Progress 75P supply module to the ISS, and which arrived just 3 hours later. They took a fast-track trajectory and got water, oxygen, other supplies, logistics to the ISS. These ads are super distracting. Oh my gosh. I should demonetize my own channel because the ads are so annoying. Let's see, where's that? Oh, yes. And so during the Soyuz broadcast, after the NASA coverage, I went back and played the Roscosmos coverage, which they have much better quality video.
Есть наполнители, есть мачта 20. Доклад руководителя принял первый. Пуск. Есть пуск. Зажигание. Предварительно. Промежуточно. Главное, подъем. Прошел контакт подъема. Двигателя центрального и боковых блоков ракеты-носителя мощной заряжения главной ступени 5. Параметры системы управления ракеты-носителя в норме. 15. 20. Двигатели первой и второй ступени работают нормально. 25. 30. Параметры конструкции ракеты-носителя в норме. 40. Стабилизация изделия устойчивая. 50. Давление в камерах двигателей в норме. 60. Тангаж, рысканье, вращение в норме. 70. Полет нормальный.
I don't recall if we could see the Korolev cross during this launch. I saw people mention it, but during streams I'm usually multitasking and I actually miss a lot of details, unfortunately.
90. Двигатели первой и второй ступени работают нормально. 100. Параметры конструкции
I'm
ракеты-носителя
looking
в
at that
норме.
little orange bar. I think the booster set is in a few seconds here.
Тангаж, рысканье, вращение в норме. 120. Есть выключение двигателей боковых блоков. Есть отделение
There we go.
боковых блоков.
Couldn't see much, but boosters did separate.
130. Стабилизация
Alright.
изделия устойчивая.
So, other things going on. Let's see. Tonight is a I was going to say conjunction. The moon and Venus will be very close in the sky. The moon, of course, anytime. I mentioned yesterday in a chat that anytime you see the moon near Venus, it is going to be a small crescent because Venus is closer to the sun. So anytime you're looking at Venus, you're looking toward the sun. Therefore, you'll never see a full moon next to Venus. It's a physical impossibility. But in any case, the crescent moon will be close to Venus tonight if you have clear skies. I'm hoping that we do. Maybe I can get a couple pictures, put them up on the channel. Okay, let me look at the chat here. Oh yes, the Starlink launch was in fact the 420th Starlink satellite to be launched into orbit by SpaceX, and it happened on 4/22. I would not at all be surprised if it was their plan to launch it on 4/20, but they missed it by 2 days. So, close only counts, and what do they say? Horseshoes and hand grenades, and Starlink launches. Mark Desire asks, is anything known about the total number of Starlink sats? How sure can they be about any number? How many have already been paid for? So if what you mean is how do they know what their final tally will be? I mean, they have their initial goal of 12,000, and then the 32,000, or what, 30, whatever, the like 30,000 extra that they talked about. I mean, ultimately, we'll have to wait and see what actually happens. I mean, I don't like to count my chickens before they're hatched, and especially when it comes to space, you shouldn't count your constellations until they're deployed. As far as information on, which, if any Starlink sats have already been paid for by dedicated clients or any of that, I don't actually have any more information on that yet. But if somebody does have a source for some good information on the progress of Starlink service, then please do let me know. In Discord would be the best place, because the message will persist. If you put it in a live chat or a YouTube comment, if you put it in a live chat, that'll disappear pretty quickly. Phoenix asks, so when is the next non-international space station related event in space exploration? Well, the next space exploration event would be the commercial crew launch in May of the SpaceX Crew Dragon, but that's of course going to the ISS for a short trip. They've also made an announcement about, I don't have the tweet up or whatever, but they also made an announcement of the first actually operational commercial crew launch, which they're targeting for later this year. I don't remember the exact date, and that will contain, I think, 2 Americans, a European, maybe even a Japanese. I think it'll have 4 people on board the Crew Dragon, which is more than the 3 that will fit on a Soyuz. Ultimately, I mean, the Crew Dragon has the capability of carrying up to 7 people, but they don't need to send that many people up at this time. Let's see. Starship. Oh, Maria Kutajan asks, how many persons does the Starship accommodate? That is yet to be determined. That'll depend entirely upon the how they configure the inside of the ship, and and the early projections were that they wanted to, or the pie in the sky, vision was that they would send 100 people up in Starship, but realistically, who knows? Maybe a couple dozen. That all is contingent upon Starship getting off the ground in a controlled and non-violent fashion. So again, we'll have to wait and see how development of Starship comes along. And I believe they have their SN4 article, their test vehicle, on the stand currently. I think they tweeted that the other day. And so if you want, here, I'll put it in the chat. If you want to keep track of Starship development progress in Boca Chica, Texas, go check out Lab Padres channel. They have a 24/7 live 4K camera coverage of the SpaceX facility in Boca Chica. So, you know, if anything's going on, they're going to see it, and then we will see it. Exoplanets channel, hello, good to see you again. Is there a launch today? No, I don't think so. There's actually, so here, let me bring up ye olde browser. So, looking at the schedule, let me zoom Rooney here. There are note that there are no times listed. Like scrolling down, there are 0 times listed for any launches because basically everything is on hold due to the virus. Again, pretty much the only things launching are space station support operations and, in one case, a spy satellite for the government that they weren't about to let slip because of some silly, you know, virus thingy. So aside from that, there are no hard dates on anything. I mean, no. The only like real concrete restriction on, or the concrete limitation on when things can launch, aside from ISS support operations, because you've got to have a steady cadence of launches to support the ISS, are the Mars launches, which are scheduled for June and July. Those are expensive missions. There's 3 or 4 missions going to Mars. As a matter of fact, let me click on Mars. There are 4. China in June, Japan for the UAE, and Mars 2020 Perseverance rover in July, and then that's it. So 3 Mars launches this year, and then ExoMars in 2 years, which is not relevant to current discussion. So yeah, you can launch to Mars every 2 years because of the orientations of the planets, and we have 3 scheduled to go in June and July. And as I mentioned previously, I suspect that those missions will go off as scheduled, because they are, so like I said, time limited. If they don't launch now, they're going to have to wait 2 years. And other than that, I really wouldn't hold your breath. I mean, you know, satellites can wait. I mean, it's better to keep people safe than to you know, aggressively, doggedly stick to your launch schedules and then risk people's health. Phoenix, follow up on the non-ISS question. I mean, the ISS doesn't bore me, but I understand where you're coming from. He said that he doesn't follow non-ISS space events because the ISS doesn't interest him. So I try to cover as many bases as possible. Next week, I do promise I'll be better prepared with my my content ready to go, so it's a little less loosey-goosey. But with almost no launches happening, I mean, this past week was an exception. We had 2 launches, but the sort of new normal is for there to be 0 launches. You know, because maybe in the next couple of months things will settle down a little bit, and we'll start to see more launches again. But yeah, until then, we have, you know, just non-launch type news to talk about. Let's see. I do apologize, I'm so far behind in the chat. I'm a little long-winded, so by the time I finish saying something, I look at the next question, and it was like 10 minutes ago. So Mark Desire says he can see the moon and Venus right now. It is currently 8:20 p.m. his time, if I'm not mistaken, Central European time. 3:20 p.m. here on the East Coast, 3:21. Atlas V launching X-37B space plane for long duration stay in orbit. Yeah. The X-37B, of course, it's a military mission, so it's very cool, but because it's doing top secret stuff, we don't hear much about it. But it's a very cool, like, mini shuttle. It's, what, like 35 feet long or something. It's a very cool craft, and it stays up in orbit for many months at a time. I think the longest it was on orbit was, what, a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. Phoenix with a silly question. What happens if astronauts misbehave in space? Can they be arrested? What would be the practical implications of that? If they commit crime in space, what happens? It's actually a legitimate question. I mean, it seems far-fetched to think that, you know, an astronaut who is amongst the best and brightest of that humanity has to offer would you know, turn criminal in space. But I guarantee you it's something that NASA's discussed. What happens? I mean, like, maybe the loneliness or the weightlessness or the, you know, any number of psychological, whatever, any number of things can cause psychological distress on the space station as well as anywhere else. And, you know, people can respond, people's minds can respond to that in different ways. And that could involve, you know, compelling them to commit some sort of heinous act. I mean, whether it's something small like, you know, stealing another crewmate's snacks, or something big like getting into a fight or sabotaging the station or whatever. But I guarantee you it's something that all the space agencies have discussed, and they have contingency plans in place for. They don't announce those publicly. I mean, the documents are probably publicly available if one were to search. But as far as, you know, what they would do, I mean, I think that, let's say a crewmate on the ISS became violent and, you know, they just went nuts or whatever. I think the procedure would be for the other crew to restrain them. And if, you know, if it's a persistent condition, then they would restrain them persistently, make sure that they, you know, got their food and their water and their whatever, and they would probably have to cobble together an emergency launch of, well, actually, so it depends on how many Soyuz modules there are currently attached to the station, because the Soyuz is what the crew comes back down on, or Crew Dragon, or whatever other crew module. If there's more than one crew module on the space station, it's possible that they would send down the troubled individual on one of those modules, leaving just like one module on the station, if their rules allow for that. But yeah, it does seem unlikely that would happen, but anything is possible. We are human after all, and therefore eminently fallible. Good question, though. I like that. Duct tapes, that's right, tie wraps. Lots of discussion about crime in space. Oh, Appleble mentioned the Starship. Yeah, Starship. I thought you used Starlink. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on Starship. Obviously, they've had a series of mishaps with their cryogenic pressure tests with the liquid nitrogen, destroying 3 test articles. We'll see what happens with SN4. Hopefully they get it figured out. But regarding Starlink, of course, the plan was to send Starlink, like launch Starlink every couple of weeks. Well, that's not happening. There's still, you know, we're at the 6th Starlink launch now, which is, I mean, it's still by far the biggest satellite constellation, the most populous satellite constellation in existence. But it's still early stages as far as their ultimate goal. But I'm not sure when the next Starlink launch is scheduled for. Starlink 7, tentatively scheduled for May sometime, but we'll see when it actually launches. Freddie H. asks, when did I discover my love of space? I've basically always loved space. I mean, I remember, you know, even back in the 3rd grade, well, when I was in the 3rd grade is when the Challenger blew up. I'm dating myself there, but since I have no one else to date, that was a little stupid humor. But I mean, I remember when the Challenger blew up, despite the tragic, you know, nature of the event, it still was. It brought space sort of into the forefront of everybody's consciousness, and I remember, you know, playing on the playground, playing. Not Space and Robbers, but, you know, playing like we were piloting the space shuttle, etc., etc. I've always loved space. I mean, my grandma used to give me like posters from NASA and stuff like this. You know, as a matter of fact, check this out. Okay, here, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna go grab something from a shelf. There we go, perfect. All right. Back in business, got my hat on. Microphone isn't muted, perfect. Okay, so I just retrieved some very dusty pictures and stuff from a shelf. I really need to clean this stuff up. I'd like to, oh, this is, okay. Dust, oh my gosh. So this is actually a poster of Earth. I thought this was the one of the space shuttle lights. There we go. But this is Earthrise. Taken from, I forget which Apollo mission. This one was from Apollo 11, I guess. Really? Okay, I guess this was from Apollo 11. It's easy to assume that all Apollo photos are from Apollo 11, but they did in fact have a bunch of other Apollo missions. And this is really cool. I actually got this, here, check this out. I actually got this when I was in the Air Force. Where's the, here. This is a satellite photo of, let's see if I can see which. I'm not sure which space shuttle, maybe Endeavour, on top of the 747 carrier. Oop. Focus. There we go. So what I want to do with my streaming space is ultimately probably get rid of the green screen background because it's a pain, and put some space paraphernalia back there. Including this. I want to frame this. It's actually a photographic print. It's not like a poster. So I got this while I was in Air Force Intelligence. One of the guys I worked with somehow had access to this photo, and he ended up giving it to me, and I'm so glad he did, because it's a unique sort of thing. you know, and it's not just some photo I bought. It's an actual like photographic print from a negative. Well, maybe not from negative, but from the you know. Anywho, yeah, I wanted to show you that because I like it. All right, getting caught up on chat. That stuff was really dusty. I've got to wipe that down. Jerry Rolfe asks when the next Mars launch window is. That would be this June and July, and then after that, the next window is in 2 years. So there's a Mars launch window every 2 years. Here we go. One moment. The dust is getting to me. Holy cow! Should have muted my mic for that one. Okay. Galder Incarnate asked, this was a few minutes ago, asked 6 Starlink sats. Okay, so Starlink 6 is the mission designator. Each time they launch Starlink satellites, they launch 60 at a time. So Starlink 1, well, there was the Starlink demo mission, which was the first one. And then Starlink 1 was 60 satellites, Starlink 2 was 60 satellites, Starlink 6 was 60 satellites. So this is the 7th batch of 60 satellites that have been launched for Starlink. Satellites, 422, 422, 422. Very clever, Appable. That's right. Phoenix asks how I create them screen backgrounds and music on my live streams. Well, the music is curated by myself. It's all copyright free because that's the only kind of music you can stream on YouTube. Unless you're Hey, Abe Knight, thank you for that. Thank you for the cool pair. Unless you're a news organization or somebody like that, I mean, they stream copyrighted music all the time, like during their broadcasts, and obviously they don't get shut down. So, but for we little people, we have to stick with copyright-free music. But what I do is I basically run radio DJ software that plays the music all the time, and whether I'm streaming or whether it's Starman, like whether it's a live event like a launch or Starman or SpaceWeek like we're watching right now, you know, I've just got the library of copyright music playing in the background. Now, Twitch, I've noticed on Twitch streams, they play copyrighted music all the time. For example, I'd love to play some carbon-based life forms, but I can't because it's copyrighted. The stream will get shut down. Dale, you have an entire wall with the Earthrise photo on it. That's impressive. Freddie H. asks what my favorite moment in space flight history is. Space flight, so human space flight. I think for the next couple millennia, it will be hard to beat One Small Step for Man, One Giant Leap for Mankind. The first steps our species took on another world will forever be etched in our racial memory. It's by far the coolest thing that humans have ever done. And we need to go back. We need to go back and we need to stay there, just like Bridenstine says. Next man and the first woman. That's right. Okay. The return of Apollo 13 was a story of triumph over adversity, which is always inspiring. That's definitely up there. But, okay, Isaac Fernandez asks, hi from Spain, how is COVID-19 hitting the aerospace industry in the USA? Is everything stopped or factories are running almost 100%? Thanks. Well, it obviously from the launch schedules I showed you earlier, it's hitting the aerospace industry pretty significantly because nothing's launching. In fact, you know, I believe the whole spaceport at Kourou, French Guiana, which is where Arianespace launches from, is shut down. You know, most everything is shut down, and critical operations are still ongoing. But basically, the whole world is twiddling its thumbs at this point. So I'd say that the impact is significant. Now, one feature of the aerospace industry is that, or one characteristic of it, is that if you don't launch today, you can always launch tomorrow, with the exception of Mars missions, where if you miss the window, then you have to wait 2 years. But if you miss it this year, you can always launch in 2 years. So even if launches are delayed, even if you know, the launch facilities are mothballed for the time being, the launches will still happen. They'll just happen a little bit later than expected. Yeah. So, let's see. So tonight, take a look at the moon and Venus. Oh yes, and I forgot, this past week was the 30th anniversary, and I should bring up some, I should post a tribute video or something, but I'm so bad about planning ahead for these things. I only had 30 years. But this past week was the 30th anniversary of the Hubble Space Telescope. And Maria, I'm not sure what you mean by test. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be testing. Anywho, yeah, Hubble Space Telescope, 30 years. NASA played a whole bunch of documentaries on the Hubble. So one of the things I have been meaning to do is, let's see, oh, one moment. Nope. Okay. All right. So I'm sorry, Maria. I'm not sure what picture you're referring to. There's nothing posted in Discord, and if you provide me with a picture or a link in Discord before the end of this stream, I can certainly show it off. But in any case, yeah, that's it from me. I thank you all for coming, and again, I'm sorry I didn't have all my ducks in a row at the beginning of the stream. I was working on some other stuff and I got distracted. But I hope you all have a great week. Stay safe, and even though there's not any launches in the next week, I will come back here to at least discuss what there is to discuss, answer your questions, and offer up some more bad jokes. All right. Y'all take care, keep it raw, and I will catch you in the next one.